Hello,
Hi,
how are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Not too bad. Is everything with your family okay?
Yeah, I mean, you
As
know,
good as it can be?
yeah,
Okay, cool. And you went to Penang.
yeah, I did.
I'm glad. Is my hometown, alive and well?
So I don't know if you know about the lockdown situation
Yep.
here in Malaysia. They've just actually lifted the lockdown, or at least moving into the second phase of the lockdown in Penang.
Okay.
Unfortunately, as big of a foodie I am, hawker centers are still closed, restaurants are still closed, so Um, but everything's okay. I really miss Penang. I haven't gone back for a really long time, so it was
Wait,
kind
are
of
you from Penang?
yes.
Oh, so we're both from Penang. Okay, where did you grow up? Where in Penang did you grow up?
My house is actually behind USM, so Galugor.
Oh, my grandma's house is near USM. We were on Sungai Dua.
Oh, okay. So actually, my grandma's house is in Sungai Dua, so I do travel back and forth. I mean, it's really close. So
Was your grandma and my grandma friends? Maybe.
who
Maybe.
knows?
So I stayed there every summer with my grandmother, like basically my whole life. Even when I lived in the US, we did this back and forth thing. And then,
Oh,
um, yeah, so I can do a quick introduction, but I did this back and forth thing. And then my father's family grew up in Joliton.
okay. I think I mean, I'm pretty sure I've been throughout the entire island before, but
I'm sure you have.
if I'm not mistaken, like they have really good food there and like a really nice market there that my grandparents frequent a lot.
The Joliton market is really good. My parents still go. The Chakweka, it's the best. That Chakweka guy, oh my god! Every time I go back, I'm just like this man is a national treasure. We need to protect this man's Chakweka. Um, okay, let me do a quick introduction on me, and then I would love to hear about you
Sure.
and how you got into kind of doing what you're doing, and then we can spend some time talking about it. Um, as I said, I was born in Penang. I was born in Glen Eagles.
Oh,
Um, and I lived there until I was about 5, and then I moved to the U.S. My parents forced me to do this weird thing where I went to school in the U.S. for 9 months. I mean, we lived in the U.S. and then every summer break, my mom and my brother and I we would go back to Malaysia, live with my grandmother in Sungai Dua. So I did it until I was about 18. I started 2 companies in the U.S. The first one was an early machine learning company in 2008. We raised 16.5 million, and then eBay bought the company. And then I moved to that was Seattle. I went to UW. I was in Seattle, Washington. I moved down to the San Francisco. Started another company that was a professional networking company, very similar to a lunch club but offline. And similar story. We went through YC, raised a couple $1 million, sold it a few years later, and then took a year off to travel. Was spending a bunch of time in Southeast Asia, and I think meeting startup people here, and was like, oh wow, Southeast Asia is like happening. Like I
yeah,
hadn't spent. I was like, I spent a lot of time when I was 18, but I was like at my grandmother's house and I had like no friends. And I'm like, I'm 38 now, so I was in my like 30, I was like 35 traveling through Southeast Asia. I was like, oh my gosh, this place is like booming.
it is.
And I just remember thinking, the next 15 years in Southeast Asia is going to be more interesting than the next 15 years in the US. I'm from here, like let's go, right? So I moved to Singapore like 3 years ago. I asked my parents if they wanted me to move to Malaysia, and they said
No.
the quote was, "We worked so hard to get you out of Malaysia. How dare you go back, go move somewhere else?" And then I think how we ended up doing what I'm doing now. So we run Iterative. It's a YC style accelerator. Blah blah blah. I can tell you more about it. But we had been my friends and I. We've been doing a bunch of angel investments. So we've invested in like 50 companies in the last 4 years. None of them in Southeast Asia up until that time. And I think the ecosystem here doesn't develop founders as we would like and what we're used to in the Valley.
Mhm.
I think the founders in Southeast Asia, this is self-serving because I'm from Southeast Asia and you are too.
Right.
People here are just as smart as anybody in the Valley. And look, you went to Davis, right? It's like there's nothing magical about that. Like the
I went
people
to
are.
UCSD actually, so UC San Diego.
Oh,
So
you
all
went to San Diego. Okay.
yeah.
But again, even like the US, like I think people think of like, oh, the people in the US, like they like do crazy things. And it's like,
Mhm.
there's nothing magical about that place, right? Or at least the people. Like people in Southeast Asia are just as good. But they do a better job of developing founders there than we do here. And we thought, hey, YC played a really pivotal role.
Yeah.
There's a lot of accelerators in Southeast Asia. Most of them are not run by anybody who's actually started companies before. And like that's
Yeah.
the whole magic of YC.
Yeah.
So maybe we can help. So that's how we got started. We started a year ago. We're investing out of a $15 million fund. We're investing in 50 companies. We've invested in 16 out of 2 batches. Yeah, that's my story.
Wow, that is super awesome. That's really cool because I feel like I've never actually had the chance to talk to someone who has gone through something like you, and that's really really cool. Because usually the people I speak to in this whole startup community, it's either they're really based in Southeast Asia or in particular in Malaysia in general, or they're like really hardcore Silicon Valley startup founders.
Yeah.
So it's nice to get to know someone on this like same wavelength.
And by the way, I think that's important, right? I mean, like, I think it's important to I think part of making entrepreneurship more accessible is making it relatable. Like,
yeah,
you and I are from the same place.
I know, it's crazy.
Like, our grandparents were like legitimately probably friends, right?
Yeah.
So, like, if I serve any purpose at all, it's just like people that come from places like where you and I come from, like they can totally do this, right? So. Tell me about how you got. So you grew up in Penang. What school did you go to in Penang?
I went to Sekolah Kebangsaan Minden Heights. So I actually, I think contrary to most Chinese Malaysians, I went to the Sekolah Kebangsaan because both my parents, they don't speak a word of Mandarin. So they were like, we're not going to send
my parents. We only speak Hokkien.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, my parents speak Hokkien too. Yeah, but they made an effort. Like I find it kind of sad that they didn't want me to speak Hokkien, so they never spoke to me in Hokkien.
They don't. Wait, no, so you don't speak?
I do. I see. The thing is, I picked up just by listening to them talk amongst themselves.
Yeah, and you go to Hawkr centers.
Yeah, and Hawkr centers as well. So obviously, I can't go into a Hawkr center speaking like this. So I try to pick up Hokkien, and I'd say like I'm good enough to like order food, which is, I mean, honestly, what you need in Penang. Yeah. Like Penang. Yeah. So yeah, that was my childhood, Sekolah Kebangsaan, and then I went to an international school all the way down south in Negeri Sembilan because my dad had to transfer. And that was when most people who attend international schools, then you're kind of pushed into the direction of like go overseas to study. So Italy, UK, Australia, and the US. And funny enough, like entrepreneurship is something that I've kind of always wanted to do since I was a kid, because I've actually started like a few very shady side businesses as a teenager. Like I like making I like making bracelets and a lot of earrings and a lot of all those girly stuff, and I would try to sell them in school, even though that I feel like that wasn't allowed. And that would basically be how I can earn enough money so I can buy whatever I want during my teenage years. So that was pretty much me. But I think what I would say, like as cheesy as this sounds, like a lot of my life events culminated in this, because my grandparents are actually in the restaurant business. They own their own restaurant. And I basically grew up in their restaurant. So since I was 2, I've had a lot of photos and videos of me hanging around in their kitchen, just peeping over the countertops. So I'm trying to see what they're doing. So I kind of grew up with that. And then I thought like, wow, this is such a cool, dynamic business to be in, albeit like really, really difficult, really tough space. So I think just growing up and hearing them complain about their issues, that's what startup founders do. We try to take a problem, we create a solution. So over the years, I think I've listened to their problems enough that I try to come up with this right now. So yeah, that's pretty much
what was the name of the restaurant?
It was called, oh my god, something Bayview. It has like
it's in Penang, right?
Yeah, it's in Penang. See, what's really strange is that this was my maternal grandparents, and they lived in Aitam.
Yeah.
So they opened their restaurant all the way in like Batu Ferringhi, because they know that that's where all the expats hang out.
By the way, I feel like I've definitely been to that restaurant. 100%. So my parents, right? So they split their time between San Jose and Penang, and they're just Penang people. Like honestly, they will never not stay in Penang for like a good portion of the year. It's just like in their blood. But they stay in Gurney Drive, and so they'd like to drive up to Batu Ferringhi for like dinner and the sea and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So there, I mean,
I've definitely been. Okay, cool. So talk to me about how you ended, like, where are you with what you're like, I get what you're like trying to do and all of that kind of stuff. Where are you at with it? Like, it sounds like you've gotten some orders through it?
Yeah. Yeah. So we've actually been generating revenue for a while now. I'd say since about March. end of February towards March. And it was very hard at the beginning because, as you mentioned in your email, if you don't have sellers, no buyers, and vice versa. So it was until a point where we hit about like 40 plus merchants, and that's when we started to see orders come in. And currently we have about 60 plus merchants. Not all of them are open at once because some
of course
had to take a break and all that. But actually in last month and compared to this month, we've actually doubled our revenue.
What revenue level are you guys at?
We have so our MRR is about between 2K to 3K right now.
Okay.
Yep.
In Sing or USD or ringgit?
Malaysian ringgit.
Okay, so 2 to 3K ringgit. Okay, cool.
Yeah. But I think I mentioned a little bit in my pitch deck that we actually started in the Silicon Valley first. I was there after I graduated from college. So when we were there, I launched the first month I launched it, we managed to generate a revenue of $500, close to $600 the first month itself of launching. Yeah. Unfortunately, as I also mentioned, that it's actually not legal to sell homemade food there, which is super unfortunate. And that's when I figure out, it's not going to be easy to grow quickly here. And that's what startups are supposed to do. You have to grow really fast, especially in this really competitive space. So that's when I said, you know what, I see an opportunity in Southeast Asia, and it's literally the land of like so much food culture here. And this is where it's at. So I was like, you know what, let's just move it all back. So here we are right now.
And how does it like practically work, right? So let's just take it from both sides. So I'm sure you have like, it's probably not an app, you have like a website that I go to, you list like what merchants, I can order it. I'm sure they have like a menu that you can do, you can kind of do all that stuff. And then do you take payment through the platform?
Yeah, so we use Stripe to take payments. So it's basically, from the customer's point of view, it's basically just like any food delivery platform. Yeah, we try not to deviate too much from that because we want customers to have a familiar experience. We don't want them to be like, what is this new thing? Especially since buying homemade food is not what you think of when you want food. Most people just opt to go for like Grab Food or Food Panda, something like that. So we try to make it as familiar as that entire process. So for customers, it's very simple to go on our platform. They see a bunch of merchants, just like they would on Grab Food. They pick whatever they want based on usually the picture that they like. They like and the picture that they're attracted to. They go in and they see the menu. They just click what they want and just check out. Very similar.
Okay, and the delivery is done not by you guys, right? It's like done by the person who's like selling it.
So we didn't really want to. We've had a chat with like other competitors here before, and most of them actually made the mistake of getting a delivery team way too early, because then you have delivery people just sitting around doing nothing, especially if you don't have consistent orders yet. And the other reason why we didn't want to rush to get a delivery team is actually many of our merchants, they are family home businesses, which means, like the mom will cook, the dad will deliver the food. And I think they like to have more of that control. So that's why we gave them the option to use, their own family members or their team members to deliver the food for them. That way they can also set their own delivery rates and delivery timings and all that, while we try to figure out the logistics to make sure it's working for them and with their goals. So right now we've actually partnered with a few other delivery companies, and we say like, hey, you know what, can you give us like corporate rates, and we'll basically direct all our merchants to you, so that you essentially get customers and more consistent orders. So that's what we're doing right now, and that has actually helped us reduce the delivery cost quite significantly without having to take on the burden of running one delivery team.
So there's two ways that the food gets delivered, right? So from the merchant themselves directly, or there is this option of kind of using some like third party kind of like delivery thing, right? Okay, cool. Yeah, don't do delivery if you can get away from it. I just signed up for the site. I was like clicking around. It looks like it needs like a day pre-order, right? So is that typical of kind of like most of the orders on the platform?
Yes. So right now, I would say like that's actually one of our big challenges right now, because typically when you're looking for food, you're not going to think that far ahead, and one day is quite far ahead. So we're trying. So my co-founder actually has an experience working at a Hawkr center himself, so he knows the ins and outs of running a food business. And we're trying to help our merchants in terms of logistics and coordinate with them to see how we can eventually push them to have on-demand orders. And right now we're doing that with one merchant who has been kind of doing this for quite some time now. So she's the only merchant that is currently doing on-demand orders, and we're working very closely with her to see how we can optimize the logistics and stuff like that. So in the near future, we hope that all merchants will eventually be on-demand and I feel like that would really help set us aside from our competitors, because right now no one is doing on-demand orders yet, with the exception of restaurants.
Cool. And by the way, when I ask some of these questions, I'm like, yeah, you can get to like not 1 day pre-order. I'm just trying to understand like where you're at now.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, look, you can build logistics if you want to build logistics. You can do like, on demand if you want to do on demand. It's good that you've made some of these choices to make it easier on yourself, kind of like early on. Okay, so I think I get it. And then on the merchant side, how are they getting the order? So let's say I place an order. I'm looking at Lazy Bum right now, and if I like fill all of this out, do they get like a WhatsApp, or like do they have an app? Okay, what happens there?
Yeah, so we've actually set up Zapier. Have you heard of it? Yeah, so they receive.
Have I heard of it? Iterative is like built on Zapier and Airtable. It's just like it's all
I mean, Hawkr is too. I feel like Airtable and Zapier are literally our bedrock. We use so much.
Fun fact: the Airtable co-founders are college friends of mine, and so they came and spoke to our first batch about like early days Airtable and like how they got started.
Oh my goodness, I'm a huge fan of Airtable. I think it has really helped us significantly. So I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, we are too. I should have invested in them when they asked me to, so I've made a big mistake. But yeah, they're great. Okay, so the order gets in, you go Zapier, Airtable maybe for like order just so you can track it, and then you WhatsApp.
So they receive orders on WhatsApp automatically, and all they have to do is type confirm, and then the receipt gets sent to the customer. So we're pretty much quite hands-off unless the merchant comes to us for questions, because we do have merchants who are not very tech savvy. Some of them are also illiterate, so we kind of have to like make sure that we don't want to design something that's too difficult. And WhatsApp is something that many Malaysians are very used to, so that's why it's like WhatsApp's the go-to.
Cool. Actually, I've been telling more startups like stop building apps, just use WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Okay, how does payment work then? So you transfer them money at the end of the day, probably not instantaneously. Like, how do you do that?
At the end of the week. So every Sunday.
Okay, cool. Okay, so you're like 60 merchants. You're doing probably like 2 to 3K in monthly revenue. I get how it works. How many orders is that?
So this one actually is quite interesting, and it actually varies because some merchants, they bring in not many orders, but each order is like more than 150 ringgit. So we're talking about like birthday cakes and usually desserts that are more premium and more expensive. So this one varies quite a lot. So usually for dessert merchants, we don't see that many orders. So it's just about like maybe 10 to 15 orders per month. But the ones with like meals, like for example, you clicked on Lazy Bum, those usually we have about an average of maybe 2 to 3 orders per day. So yeah.
So over a week, I don't know how many orders did you do last week? Just like order of magnitude.
Last week we actually had quite a lot. So I think it was like 10 orders from this merchant who bakes very, very premium birthday cakes. Yeah. And then from Lazy Bum itself, we had.
I guess just in general, just like total orders.
Oh, in total. In total, we had about I'd say 50 to 60.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. By the way, I ask these questions because it helps me figure out what stage you're at so that I can kind of like, it helps me understand the challenges that you're going through. I don't particularly care that your orders are like 50 to like 60. We invest in early stage companies. So like,
okay.
I don't feel like, oh my gosh, it's only like 50. Like, okay, cool. So 60 merchants, 50 orders. Okay. What do you think is blocking you from growth right now? So, oftentimes we think about growth as like, you got to do something to like unlock more growth, right? So like, what is your take on like, how do you kind of get to like, I don't know, 100 orders per week and then like 250 orders a week?
I think the biggest blocker right now is probably the technology, because we had complaints about website being too slow, and I understand because people compare us to the bigger platforms like Foodpanda and GrabFood, and they're all very, very quick websites. So that's like the standard right now. And because we're not there yet, I think a lot of people think that our website is slow, and therefore they think that it's like kind of shady or just not very reliable, and they're scared like their order might not even arrive, because we've actually spoken to, we do a lot of customer interviews, and we've actually spoken to customers who have ordered from our competitors and their orders literally just never arrive. So they have that similar fear when it comes to homemade food platforms. Also, because they have the perception that home cooks are not very professional. So that's, I think maybe it's a combination of the technology and also the perception of homemade food or buying homemade food in general. So that's something that we really have to work on. So the perception is something that marketing side has to really step up.
Yeah. Okay. So website, it's a little bit slow. I can kind of feel it now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So website slow, you can kind of solve that. Okay. There's some marketing around like getting people comfortable with like ordering from like home cooks. What else?
I'd say maybe it's also a lot of marketing, because this is a very competitive space, and sometimes I think people just think of like our competitors as like other food delivery platforms, but we're also competing with smaller hawkers on the streets or vendors and all that. So I think this space being very competitive, it's not very easy to convince customers to just switch. So yeah, that's a pretty big challenge right now. And I think speaking of that, we actually, my co-founder and I had a meeting this morning, and we've actually realized that we have this slight challenge with customers only sticking to one merchant. So let's say they only buy from Lazy Bum. They don't want to try any other merchant because they just happen to like the food so much. And that's the thing. That's a good thing that they like the food and they keep coming back. But we fear that they might one day get bored of it and not want to try other merchants. So that is a slight challenge that we're still trying to figure out how to overcome it.
Okay. That makes sense. Do you think it sounds like getting merchants on board is what's harder, getting more people to like order and like getting more people on the platform, or getting more merchants on?
Definitely getting more people to order, and especially the speed of ordering. So I think at the start, we've improved on this, but at the start, people would sign up for an account and then they just not place anything for 1 month. And I think that's maybe because they don't see the merchant that they like, or they just want to see our Instagram and our social media to make sure that this is like a legit platform that I'm ordering from. So they're kind of like monitoring us in a way. But recently, the time between someone signs up for an account versus ordering is a lot faster. I think it's mostly because of we're trying to partner with other companies to help promote our brand, and we're trying to get people to be more interactive on our social media, so people take that as a sign of reliability. Yeah, and but I would say like getting merchants, especially during this time of like lockdowns and endless MCOs here in Malaysia, it's actually quite easy to get merchants. So I think for our merchant signups, we kind of have a conversion rate of about like 50%.
Okay, wow. So it's really easy.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, merchant signups are really easy. So it's just getting the other side, right?
Yeah.
Where are you getting these customers now? Like where do you find the users that you're getting at?
So at the early stage, I think this was one of our mistakes, is that we just ran like a bunch of Facebook and Instagram ads, because very costly. And I think by doing that, we don't really know who our target customers are. So right now what we're doing is we're actually looking for organizations, companies, and co-working spaces to partner with. So we say that, hey, if you get all your members on our platform, we'll give them like a 10% discount. And that's how we actually can really find out who our target customers are, and definitely who our most forgiving customers are as well. So this strategy has really, I think, helped us get more and more orders and more consistent orders as well.
Wait, sorry, say that again? I think I missed it.
Yeah, so we are currently partnering with a bunch of organizations, companies, and co-working spaces. There are a bunch of them in KL. So we say that, hey, we'll give your members like a 10% discount, right? And I think by doing so, that actually helped us double our revenue for this month.
And you're only in KL?
Currently, we are only in KL, with the exception of 2 merchants in Seremban, because I mean, my family kind of knows. My family knows those 2 merchants, so they just told them about it and say like, yeah, sure, you can come on our platform, but we warn you that because you're only going to be the only 2 merchants on our platform, and as a result, you might not get that many customers, because our focus right now is KL. Okay.
By the way, on the ads thing, ads are actually a really good way to find target customers, but you need to do it properly. And what I mean by that is like, run several campaigns with like different messages and look at the demographics, and you can like test some of these assumptions. And if you can drive down your like cost per acquisition, then you know that you've like hit this like thing. So anyway, we actually use it quite a lot to find our target customers because they have all the reach and they have like targeting things. So we will like, so for example, just to make this concrete, you can try this. I was running this on-demand blue-collar staffing platform, and so it was like part-timers. And I didn't know if they were interested in making more money as the main selling point or flexibility, like, I don't know, they can work when they want. And so I ran 2 different ads, same image, and like they had very different performances. And so I knew it was the messaging. Which one do you think was better? Perform better?
Okay, so wait, so you have the same images, right?
Same images, and the text was like, like make as much money as you want, something along those lines. And the other one was like, work when you want.
See, I want to say make money. That would probably generate more interest. But then the hype right now is about flexibility of work. So I want to say the latter. Yeah, I want to say that the flexible working.
I mean, you're smarter than me. Like I thought it would be 100% to be money, but the one that was a flexible working, the cost per acquisition was 1/10.
Wow.
Yeah. So then I was like, oh, I got to redesign the whole website and all that stuff to be about flexible working, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at the Facebook demographic data, and the cost per acquisition for college or recent college graduates for flexibility specifically was significantly lower than everybody else. So I was like, great, that's my supply, just like adds to that, right? So you can do this kind of stuff to like find out who your people are.
And this is through Facebook ads, right?
Instagram. I mean, eventually I started just doing Instagram ads because it was like, like do college and recent college grads use Instagram or Facebook. It's Instagram, so I just did Instagram ads.
Yeah, I think I came across like an A/B testing feature, so I'm assuming this is what you used, right?
No, it's not even A/B testing. Just make 2 campaigns. Just make 2 ads.
Oh, okay.
Just run them, right?
That's
you just run them at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, you should try this. You can use this to kind of figure out where it is. Okay. So you run ads. You've done some co-working spaces organizations. What other stuff are you thinking about for growth? Anything else?
Nothing in particular, except I think maybe just partnering with even more companies to get that growth and basically just getting our name out there. I think in some ways we're going after the clout thing because that's kind of what our competitors have been doing. So we're trying to mirror that because I know that worked for them. So we've actually been approached by a few radio stations, and they kind of want to interview us and they want to promote our platform. Fortunately for free, because they think that this is like a perfect opportunity to help like a bunch of Malaysians, especially on the merchant side.
Okay, couple ideas for you. Couple thoughts and couple ideas.
Okay.
One, I'm somewhat skeptical about using the same things that the other competitors do, primarily because distribution channels degrade.
Okay.
What I mean by that is the first banner ad on the internet, everybody clicked on because nobody had ever seen a banner ad before. And then now that there's so many banner ads, nobody clicks on banner ads, right? Mm-hmm. And especially if you're following your competitors into the space, like that channel and the people who you can reach in that channel have already heard messaging from other people. So you're just like second or third, right? So it still could work, but like you tend to have to pay more than the other people who did it first and like all this stuff. So yeah, there's that. I wonder, a couple ideas for you because I can't help myself with growth ideas. I wonder if you can like partner with, since merchants are so easy to get, I wonder if you could like get merchants on board and then basically offer them not discounts, but like make it so that they could give a discount to their customers, but you pay for it, right?
Oh, okay.
Because like, I mean, it's just acquisition cost to you, right? And maybe they have like, especially if you find businesses that have some following already, be like, hey, you should come onto the platform. By the way, everybody who orders from your platform will get 20% off. I'll cover it, right? And then they will post that deal to their friends, and they got to do it through here, and then you kind of get some people. So there's a thing there.
Yeah, actually, speaking about this,
yeah,
you actually reminded me about this because I think when you ask me about growth, my mind automatically thinks of like marketing. So my co-founder and I, we actually launched this thing with a few of our merchants, and we're actually inspired by Snapchat streaks. So what we're doing with our merchants is that we tell them, hey, if you hit like a specific revenue, so far for our merchants, we set like 2.5K per merchant per month, we'll reduce your commission to, we'll reduce commission by 5%. So we're actually A/B testing with our merchants right now. And we've launched it today. So a few of our merchants agreed to do that, and that's when we're starting for July.
Cool. Yeah, I think the way to think about this in terms of growth. Marketing is like some part of it, but marketing is like, it's like a very outdated term because it's just like, to me, I'm like, everything is marketing. So, because I feel like if one side of your market is easy to get, can you translate that into the other side that's harder? Like, can you use the easy side to get to the hard side, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's that piece. I wonder if you can. Referral programs are very straightforward. It's like one of the first things everybody tries. You can kind of do that stuff, right? And I think the other thing I would think about is there anybody who uses the platform pretty regularly? Mm-hmm. And what are they ordering? What was their experience when they first got on the app? So have you heard of like Facebook's magic moment, aha moments, blah, 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 that kind of stuff?
I'm pretty sure I have, but I'm not really sure how what specifically you mean by that.
Yeah, cool. So it wasn't a test. I'll explain to you if you didn't know. Facebook really wanted to boost their retention, right? So retention is really important, right? Otherwise you have to keep acquiring customers. What they did was somebody did an analysis on who uses Facebook the most. Mm-hmm. And then they looked at all of those people and what their first 7 days or 14 days on Facebook was like. And the idea being, did they have some experience early on such that it made them stick later on? And if that's true, can we give everybody that experience?
Right.
Okay. What they found out was if you get, I forget what the actual number is, but if you get 9 or 8 friends or something like that on Facebook within the first week, your probability to retain like 6 months later like triples, right? Because I mean, obviously Facebook doesn't work if you don't have friends, right? So they found this number out. And they redesigned their entire onboarding such to get you to this number, right? Mm-hmm. And I think for early stage startups like yours, I often think about this story and is like, what is the experience that you can give somebody in the first 7 days of using your platform such that they will continue ordering? Like, is it they have to order something in the first week? Okay, if it is like, cool, let's just subsidize the order to make it like really brain dead simple, because we know they're going to stick around and we'll make more money in the like back end, right? Or like whatever. So I don't know. Have you thought about that at all?
Yeah, I have. So what we currently have right now is when they order for the first time, we give along with the receipt, we say, hey, here's a 10% discount for your next order. So we try to do that for the first 3 orders. And we realize actually this is actually pretty successful, because then I think familiarity helps. So once they're used to our platform, and even if it's slow, they'll forgive it because at least they know that they're getting their food. So I think we've seen a few successes with about 20 of our customers right now, and they keep coming back for more. So they and it's even better because the longer they stay on our platform, the more open they are to try new things, especially with our new newsletters that we send out. We say like, hey, you haven't tried this merchant. Perhaps since you tried that merchant, you might like this merchant because they're kind of similar in some ways, but this is something new for you. So that's currently what we're doing right now.
Do you know what percentage of your orders last week are returning customers?
50%.
50%?
Yeah.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't know if that's like a data that I can trust, because last week we kind of posted on Instagram. We said like, hey, the government has just extended a lockdown. You know what? This is a great time to buy food for your friends. So many of them actually place orders for someone else, and that was like helped. That was something that boosted our orders.
I mean, I count it. I would count it.
Yeah, I mean it's like a pretty cool concept, because many of them were just like, oh my god, yeah, I have like colleagues I haven't seen in ages because of this whole work from home thing, so let me just like order for them. Actually, there were like 2 of our customers that they ordered like 10 boxes of cheesecakes, which was shocking to us, because like at first I thought, is this customer going to eat like 10 boxes of cheesecakes? Did she order a wrong amount? And she wanted it to like send to all of her colleagues, so that I thought like that was pretty cool.
Wait, sorry, why are they ordering through you for that? Because they could use like Foodpanda or Deliveroo or Grab Food to like order for their friends. Why you?
So here's the thing. I think compared to restaurants, I don't know how do you order from food delivery platforms very often? You do?
Fair enough. Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. So I think my experience with food delivery platforms is that they're not very customizable, and you don't know if they're going to accommodate your request. Whereas with like my customers, I also noticed that they're a little bit more picky when it comes to food. So we actually have like quite a number of customers, about 10, who have kidney issues, or they just don't want to eat that much salt. So they can tell the merchant like, hey, don't put too much salt in my food. And every time the merchant sees that customer's name, they know like, okay, I know this guy doesn't want too much salt in his food. So I think that level of customization probably encourages them to like, okay, this is a safe option that I can always return to, and that's why they return.
Does the cheesecake that person bought? I mean, obviously there are like restaurants and bakeries that sell cheesecakes,
Yeah,
but this particular cheesecake is only listed on your platform.
It's like the burnt cheesecake. I'm not sure if you see.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, it's so popular right now. But I think the reason why customers keep coming back is because this merchant is probably the only one in this area that sells the burnt cheesecakes in mini versions. So instead of like one big one, I think that's and actually we gave her that idea because I said like, one cheesecake might be a little bit too big for some people, and we also have other merchants selling just a whole cake, and usually you don't get that unless it's like someone's birthday or a big event. So I said like, hey, now lockdown, a lot of people are stressed and people want dessert, so sell it and like try to make it in like bite size sizes so that more people would buy, and that actually kind of helped increase their sales.
What do you think is the reason people want to buy from a platform? I have guesses. Like, I feel like, okay, I would buy from a platform like this. One, because there's food that is like, I can't get in other places, right? So like, I can go to a restaurant to eat whatever, but like, I don't know. Like there's some food that is just like one of my favorite dishes is kiam chai ap.
Okay.
Freaking love it, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, for whatever reason, a home cook making, like our family makes this a lot, like that tastes better than any restaurant I've ever had. And so like that's a dish I would order from your platform, right? Yeah. So there are some unique foods that are like your platform has that other platforms do not have. So yeah, that's like maybe one reason why. Yeah. 2, cost, maybe it's cheaper for like whatever reason. 3, maybe convenience. If you get some level of density and I like can order from like, I don't know, the person is like near my building or like in my neighborhood or something like that. Do you see any other reasons why people would order from your platform? And given all of these reasons, what do you think is the most compelling to the people that have bought?
So I think the most compelling reason is actually your first one. And this is very true when we speak to customers about it, because you see, none of our merchants, and for the reason that you mentioned, they don't have things like nasi lemak on their platform, which you can pretty much get anywhere here. So they have very, I'd say almost like when you eat it, many of our customers say that, oh my God, this is like my mom's cooking. That it's that kind of sentiment when they eat our food. And that sort of thing you can probably only get from homemade food. So that's, I would say like that is actually the most compelling reason.
Is it actually cheaper, or is it roughly about the same?
So it's actually cheaper. And for I think the most obvious reason is that it's obviously cheaper to run from a home kitchen than to pay for super high overhead costs in restaurants. And we've had a lot of merchants who previously ran their own restaurants, and they're like, nope, the cost is just eating too much of my profits and my revenue, and it's such a pain, so I'm just going to run from my home kitchen to cut down a lot of the costs. So we've actually done a few comparisons, and we have this one merchant who, or at least many of our meal merchants, they sell rice boxes. So it's like rice, meat, vegetable, very simple. And the average price for that in KL, if you go outside and if you get one, it's usually about 15, 16 ringgit. Our merchants make it for less than 10 ringgit.
Yeah, the cost structure is different, right? So they don't have to kind of do this. Okay, but it's primarily kind of this uniqueness, right, of this like home cooking. Okay, last question, and then I should go soon. How are you going to get to the like, you're at 50 to 60 orders? How do we get you to like 250? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, how do you think about that? I mean, you're trying to kind of grow this thing. How do you think about getting to like 250, just specifically 250?
In any span of time, or are you talking about like 1 month, or what are we looking at?
Good question. Let's do it this way. Let's say that we decide to work together, right? And we're part of the program, it all works out, and like we're very happy about this, and we give you our 150K USD, right? Which goes a long way in Malaysia, right? 150 USD is like a lot in Malaysia. So you have some money. I mean, if ideally after the program we try to get you like $1 million, but like, okay, well, you start with ours. And we say, hey, in order to get to 1 million, nobody's going to give you $1 million for 50 to 60 orders, right?
Yeah.
Fair enough, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So how do we get you to a number where somebody will give you $1 million? I don't know what that number is, but I think it's in the order of magnitude of like 500 to 1,000 orders a week, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making that number up. I could totally be wrong, right?
Yeah.
So let's just say it's 500. Let's just say it's like 10x. And then we have 3 months to work together. We basically have 14 weeks to work together for 3 months. You have a little bit of cash. What do we work on to get you to the 500 orders a week? Like, what do you think works to get you there?
I think right now, and it's kind of in line with what we're lacking, is like a very solid marketing, maybe not very solid, but kind of like a more cohesive marketing plan. Because right now we're at the stage where we're just like, oh my God, let's try this new thing. Let's try this new thing. And like, we're so excited. And to the point where I admit we're actually kind of all over the place right now. So I think with that amount of money, what we really need to do is kind of nail down on what really works, because we have an idea of like what kind of marketing tactics work outside of, even if it's outside of social media. So things like the thing I mentioned, the streaks idea. So having the merchants hit like a certain goal in order for us to give them reduced commission rates. I think that we can work with, and we can also say that, hey, now we've gotten funding. Let's try to increase your revenue per month by saying that, okay, if you hit like say 5K per month, and we'll reduce your revenue. And of course, we're not just going to leave you hanging high and dry just to reach 5K. We're going to support you in that. And then we can go work on like the social media aspects of marketing the business with that amount of money. So I think I would say like it's a lot of nailing down the marketing strategy that would really help us to get to the next level.
Okay. I've got to go soon. Do you have any questions for me? I mean, I just like peppered you with a bunch of questions, so I feel like we should like do the reverse.
I mean, do you have like, do you have to go like right now? Because I do have questions, but I don't want to, keep you.
I have 7 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's so cool to, know someone who's like from my hometown and even maybe know the same people. I just really wanted to ask you, like, what if there's like one lesson that you've learned in starting a bunch of startups and successfully exiting, what would it be? What is your key takeaway?
Gosh,
it's a very lofty question.
Yeah, there's, and you know what's the first thing that came to mind?
What?
Have fun. Like, look, startups are a pain in the ass, right? You're going to work your ass off. You're going to burn out. I hope your co-founder and you have a good relationship. There's all this stuff, right? And honestly, there's going to be days when you're like, we're dead. We're dead. I've spent 4 years of this. I spent 4 years of my life working on this, and we're dead. It's going to come to nothing. And there's going to be times when, I started the first company when I was 21 or 22, right? And the first 2 years we spent in my brother's basement, we built 24 products that didn't go anywhere, right? So that was the first, we don't know what we're doing. And then we raised some money, and we had dreamed about raising money. And we never thought about what happens after you raise money. We're like, oh my God, what if I got $1 million to run my startup?
Right? Was that what you're asking me? What would I do with that money?
Right. and then you get $1 million, and you're like, oh shit, what do we do with $1 million now, right? And so then we hire all these people. Never hired anybody in my life. Never managed anybody. So I'm just going from I don't know what I'm doing, and then I kind of figure it out, and then you graduate to the next stage, and you're like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And then you have days where it's like, we can't make payroll next week.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sitting in office with 25 people who I really like, and I know I'm not going to be able to pay for everybody next week. Mm-hmm. And I need to act like it's okay because I can't freak them out.
Yeah.
And it's terrible, right? All of it's terrible. And, if you do this for money, the chances of you actually making money off of this is so small.
I know, yeah.
Go get a job, right?
That's what my parents keep telling me.
Totally. My parents too, right? And so I think what it comes down to is I hope you make money and I hope you're successful and all this kind of stuff. But above else, it's hopefully you're having fun, because that's the thing that's going to pull you through this. And by the way, my Iterative co-founder is my co-founder for the last 15 years.
That's amazing. Wow.
Right?
That's
and
a long time, yeah.
It's primarily because
you have fun.
You have fun. And I trust it, and we have fun, right? And stuff gets terrible, and sometimes I think it's the end of the world and he picks me up, and sometimes he thinks it's the end of the world and I got to pick him up, and we have a lot of fun. So I don't know if that's a learning. I wish I had something to be like, oh, just do this and you'll be really successful. But like,
Mhm.
honestly, it's like being an entrepreneur is quite a ride, and I hope you have fun. And I will say that it has probably taught me more about myself than anything because you have to go through all of this, right? And oftentimes the thing that holds back startups is actually the founder. It's hard to kind of like get there, but it's like, what are you scared of? Okay, that the company doesn't end up doing those things, so you're scared of it.
Mhm.
Something you don't know how to do, so you're kind of scared of doing it. I don't know how many times I find a company where it's like run by 2 engineers and they don't spend any time doing marketing because they don't know how to do it, so they don't pay attention to it. And it's like your company is dying because you don't do marketing, right?
Yeah.
Like stop hiding in your like code and like get out there and sell, you know? And by the way, I'm an engineer too, so I understand this.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know. Does that help? Like, does that help?
Yeah, for sure. And I think this is something that, we all say like, oh, it's super exciting to be in a startup, but we never actually reinforce it when we have our meetings and, our daily stand-ups on Slack and all that. It's always like, go, 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 like, what's the next goal and what are we doing this week? And yeah, we forget to have fun. And I think that's a very novel, like, advice.
Yeah, which is funny because it's so obvious, right?
Yeah, it's like stating the obvious, but at the same time, super duper important and something that a lot of people overlook.
So two more things that, as you were saying that. One thing that helped us be more resilient, I constantly say this to myself now. It's never as good as you think it is, and it's never as bad as you think it is. So however successful or however high your company is, because you broke some new record on the number of orders,
Yeah.
the next week it could be back down, right? So
Yeah, for sure.
I don't let myself get too excited when things are going. But on the flip side, when things are really bad, it's also never that bad, right? So I try to like, rather than ride the huge peaks and cross, I'm like trying to be in the middle. I'm like, cool, we hit some metric, awesome, right? But like, let's get back to work. And then when things are really bad, it's like, cool, this sucks. Let's like get to work. So you want to kind of ride.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I would say is take lots of pictures. And what I mean by that is I have so few pictures from those early days. And it's because we're so busy, right? And anytime I see any of those pictures, there's so much nostalgia. I'm like, oh my God, that was so pure. Like, I remember when we were like doing this, and like, remember this fold out table that was like basically broken, but we don't have any other tables. So like, whatever. Like try to remember some of those moments. And I'll tell you, I mean, look, I've basically been a founder since I was 22. I'm 38. So like 16 years, right? I've never had a job since then. And the only things I really remember are when things were really down and like who you were with and like what that, like how you kind of pull through those things. Like, I don't know, you asked me about like, what is it like to like sell a company and what was that day like? I like remember it, but like, I spend zero time thinking about that, right?
Yeah.
The thing I think about was like, before our first launch, our payment gateway didn't work and we stayed up all night trying to code and fix this payment gateway. And it came down to my brother had his last thing to do. So we all just sat behind my brother's computer and he's like, hey guys, this doesn't help for you to sit next to my computer. And Brian goes, what can I do to help? And he jokingly says, I really need to do my laundry because I don't have any clothes tomorrow. And Brian jumps out of his chair and he goes, I will do your laundry, and literally runs to his room and gets his laundry and does his laundry, right? And like, I mean, my brother was completely joking, but it was like, we were so just like, we will just help each other do whatever we can do to like make this like work. So like those are the things I kind of remember more than like, you sold the company. What was that like? Like,
yeah.
Who cares?
Basically the things you won't talk at like board meetings or any kind of interviews and yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, this is the thing we try to do a lot. Look, our program is, I think of it as just orientation into a community, right? And it's a community of people who you are now kind of like a part of because you've started a company, right? It's like a community of people who have gone through this before, because it's too rare that you meet other people, especially in Southeast Asia, who have done this and you can talk about, right? You can like resonate and talk about it with. Sure, you can watch Elon Musk videos on YouTube all you want, but it's like Elon Musk might as well be from Mars, right? Like, I don't relate to Elon Musk, so you probably don't relate to Elon Musk, right? Yeah. So I think we try to do this as much as possible and build this community of people so that like,
it's relatable.
You can talk to people about it, right?
Yeah.
And it's like real. And so anyway. That's the deal.
Yeah.
I've got to run, but give me a couple. So just process stuff. Give me a few days to think about what I want to do here. The next step is actually we just have a final interview, and a final interview is you and I and your co-founder and Brian. So we all get together, and we spend an hour and a half really digging into your thing, and we have somebody on my team actually write an investment memo about your space. And like, I mean, I looked at your application and I like thought about it, but like, I didn't Google how many competitors there are in Malaysia. I have no idea how big the market is.
Oh, so it's like looking into the nitty gritty of my space.
Somebody is going to dig into it, right? Like there's Shipper, there's Chef in the US. Like, okay, what did they do? How did they get big? Okay, so somebody's going to do a bunch of research. We're going to come to this final interview and be like, hey, great to meet you. We did a bunch of research. Here's the 3 things that we're most worried about. Let's talk about it. Like, and we can work on it together. And then the second half of that is we align on a 3-month plan. So let's say we do work together. Like, how many orders do you guys want to do? Do we think that's enough? Do we not think that's enough? Like, how do we get there? Like, if we were like, you need to spend all of our money and burn all of it, and you're like, I don't want to do that. That's not how I want to build a company. It's like, okay, cool. We probably should work together, right? Or maybe you're like, I want to burn all the money, and we're like,
no.
Like, look, at the end of the day, whether you take our money or not, you're the founder. I can't make you do anything. Even if you take my money, I can't make you do anything. And look, being a founder, I don't want to make you do anything. So I think we want to get to some alignment on like, cool, we both want the same thing. Like, let's work together, right? And if we don't, cool, no worries. Like, we can kind of like go off and do our things. So that's the next step. So give me a few days to kind of figure out what I want to do there.
Sure.
As an aside though, let me know how I can help, regardless of how this like pans out. Like, let me know how I can help. I mean, I'd like to help all entrepreneurs in Southeast Asia, but like you're like from my hometown, from like the same neighborhood. So like let me know how I can help, like whatever that is, right? So I don't know. You're trying to figure out all these different ways to grow. Here's a list of 10. What do you think of these like lists? Do you have any other ones? Like shoot me emails. Like I'll try to help as much as possible, right? So yeah, just don't be shy about that.
Oh, I have 2 really quick questions. The investment, do you expect us to incorporate in like the US, or what do you have in terms of that?
Good question. Have you incorporated yet?
I have incorporated here.
Okay. Typically what we do is we have people incorporated in Singapore. By the way, we help you do this. We have lawyers help you do this. If you're going to want to raise money at some point, investors typically like Singapore domiciled companies better.
I heard of that.
Yeah, the typical thing is basically you get a Singapore company, you transfer ownership of the Malaysian entity to the Singapore entity. That's it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And how long are we looking at from like this meeting to the next meeting?
Well, our batch starts in let's see, the 19th. So
oh wow, that's so soon.
Yeah. So I need to make a decision like soon. And we need to have this final interview. And so look, if everything goes well, we will start working together on the 19th, and we give you our money, and like we try to make this grow as big as we can. So
yeah,
hopefully that time frame works for you.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. As you know, we've been talking about like startups are super fast paced, so I'm in it.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So look, if you have any other questions that come up as the next kind of like couple of days, let me know over email, and I can answer them. But let me kind of come to figure out what to do, and then take it from there.
Sure. Thank you so much for your time. I feel like you're like a really busy person, so I really appreciate your time talking to me. I've enjoyed it.
Hey, you're busy too. You're a founder of a company now, right? You're just as busy as me. So, but thank you for saying that, and I appreciate you talking to me about kind of your business. I'll talk to you in a couple of days.
Okay, cool.
Cool. See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.